Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Councillor Bruce Hayne, and I'm acting mayor for the month of September, and so I'll be chairing Council-in-Committee. And we have one delegation this afternoon, and I'd like to ask Michael Knight, the CEO of the United Way for the Lower Mainland, to come forward and make the introductions. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak to Council again from the United Way. United Way has had a long relationship with the City of Surrey, and I'd like to thank the City and its affiliated unions, particularly Jeannie Kilby and QP 402. Jeannie's a member of our campaign cabinet and helps us raise about $28 million for services in the Lower Mainland. And we've engaged in a series of pieces of research around the demographics of our communities that United Way's worked in for over 85 years. And the first one, I'm proud to say, is for Surrey and White Rock, and we're here to talk a little bit about the results of that survey today. Just a little quick reminder that United Way has been working for about 85 years in this community. We have a vision to help create a healthy, caring, and inclusive community, and most people know United Way as an organization that comes in every fall and, well, some people might say shakes down people for money to support social services. We've got a long tradition of raising money in many of these communities, but money is only one tool that helps create change. United Way is involved in quite a few other activities on top of raising and distributing grants to organizations in our community. We engage in research, as you'll hear about tonight. We work on collaborative initiatives, and I'm also proud to say the City of Surrey, the Surrey School Board, United Way, and other not-for-profits were a partner in creating many after-school programs in this community for probably the last 6 or 7 years. We invest the money that we raise from donors, such as the ones from the City, and importantly, we also advocate for good public policy that helps people in vulnerable situations. I'm going to turn over the presentation on the details of this research to my colleague, Marielle Schaafsma, who I'm quite proud to say also brought her parents here tonight, who are City of Surrey residents, to hear what she has to say. So over to her for the next little bit. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. This is a bit of an unusual experience for me as well to have my parents watch me work, but it's great to have them here. I, too, am a Surrey resident for the past 6 months. So just quickly to let you know, why did we launch into this series and why did we pick Surrey first? As a knowledge resource and a community partner, United Way is providing a compilation of community profile data to help our partners in their planning and in their strategies. Why we selected Surrey? It's just because Surrey has grown so much, and we have found a previous report done in 2004, and we thought it would be important to take a look at Surrey and how it's changed in the last 10 years. And United Way funds many agencies and services here in Surrey, so this profile will also inform our future investments and will continue to enable our partnership working with the Social Policy Advisory Committee led by Councillors Villeneuve and Lefranc, aiming towards creating stronger communities in Surrey for all of us. So what we included in the report, we looked at 3 different types of indicators: population, economic, and social indicators. And these were our focus because understanding these kinds of information is key to doing social planning well. We need to know who our population is, where they live, and what their strengths and their needs are. So noting community trends in these areas can tell us the good news, can give us interesting comparisons to other municipalities, and can also tell us where we need to kind of sit up and pay attention to what's going on. An added feature we were able to do this time was to give you BC 211 call data from callers from Surrey to give us some more insight into the issues facing Surrey residents. So first off, population indicators. There are 10 in the report. I will not cover them all. I'll just look at 4 of them quickly with you. So population growth in Surrey. Within Surrey, from 2001 to 2011, as you can see, Cloverdale grew in leaps and bounds, and Newton and Fleetwood were the next highest in growth. Interestingly, Surrey is the fastest growing city in Metro Vancouver, and in fact its population nearly doubled from 1991 to 2011. Surrey's live birth rate is also remarkable, 13.5 live births per 1,000 people compared to 9.9 for BC, and this translates into 10% of British Columbia's live births happening in Surrey. Looking at population age categories, in every Surrey community you'll see that the 35 to 64 sort of parenting working age group is the largest, but these population composition trends are going to be changing. In 2011, the 50 to 64 age range group was almost 90,000 people, about 20% of Surrey's population. So that means in the next 5 to 10 years, the retirees are going to be a huge proportion of the population. So as a community's population proportions change and shift, so do age-appropriate infrastructure, program and service needs. They change as well. For instance, communities with high proportion of children, you need to make sure schools, child care, after-school care is in place. The job market becomes increasingly important as the younger population graduates and moves into the workforce, and seniors need access to retirement programs, home care, and medical care. Another reason after births for population growth is new residents in a community. So this table here shows you how many of Surrey's population have arrived to Canada and have decided to make Surrey their home. As a proportion of total population, in Surrey, about 40.5% are foreign-born. Fleetwood, Guildford, Whalley, and Newton are all above 40% or higher, and Newton is closing in on 50% of its population being foreign-born. Cloverdale and South Surrey have the highest non-immigrant population proportion. Immigration is a really beautiful thing and brings such richness to our communities, but for the families moving here, it can be a challenge, especially if they're coming from countries where English isn't spoken or learned. Parents who struggle with English also struggle with helping their children in school, communicating with teachers and helping them with homework. You see here the top 5 languages spoken by Surrey School District students. And so this graph shows us that in 2014-15 school year, more than half of the Surrey District students spoke a different language other than English at home. Next is economic indicators. Again, there are 10 in the full report. I will just touch on 4. Surrey's median income is in line with most of the comparison municipalities. In fact, it's a smidge higher than the City of Vancouver, but a little bit lower than all of Metro Vancouver as a whole. Within Surrey, as seen here, Newton has the highest number of low-income individuals, but proportionally, Whalley and Guildford both have just over 20% of their population in the low-income range. In Guildford, of those people, almost 26% are in people living in low-income situations or children, and it's almost 25% in Whalley. In the full report, there's a lot more details, but you'll see that Surrey's low-income rates are actually better than all of the comparison municipalities, as well as Metro Vancouver. It's 15.5% low-income versus 17.4% in Metro Vancouver and 22.4% in Richmond. As you know, people with lower incomes tend to become entrenched in their situations, and getting out requires support. Otherwise, very difficult, and often children are the most impacted. The top 5 Surrey occupations, as you know, different occupations require different levels of education and experience, and also have very different pay scales. 25% of Surrey workers are in sales and service. This averages at about $16 an hour. The trades average about $26 an hour, while management averages about $32 an hour, so quite a difference. In terms of household spending, another indicator on economic stability, on housing costs like rent, Surrey's actually faring better than all of the comparison municipalities. But there is still a good proportion of renters who are above the advised 30% of income spent on housing, and this totals about 16,000 households in Surrey. Finally, the social indicators. There are 12 in the full report. Have a look. I'll just cover a couple in light of time. Within Surrey, there are much higher percentages of lower parent families in Guildford and Whalley. And the composition of family and the family environment can have significant impact on kids and for the planning of adequate and appropriate community services and programs. Fortunately, compared to Metro Vancouver, which has 15.5% lone parent families, Surrey's is a bit lower at 14.9% overall. Given the upcoming federal election, we thought it would be interesting to look at Surrey's voting habits municipally. Good news is civic engagement demonstrated through voting is on the rise, so good job, Surrey. And we hope that Surrey residents participate in this next election. That's it for my part. I'll hand it back to Michael to talk about what we've seen from BC 211 in Surrey.
Thank you very much. For those of you who don't know, BC 211 is a service that United Way helped found a number of years ago and is the primary funder for. And it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week call center for people looking for information on social, community, government services. And it's offered in about 25 different languages on a free basis to anybody who phones. So one of the things that we thought might be of interest to you is what are people from Surrey calling BC 211 about? And you'll see the number one issue for calls from this area are housing and homelessness, and that's fairly common among all calls to BC 211 from the broader Lower Mainland. In particular, one of the most well-used services is the homelessness and shelter hotline. So twice a day, BC 211 staff call every shelter in the Lower Mainland to find out where the available beds are. So either social workers and or people who are looking for a shelter bed themselves can call and find out where the closest available bed is to their location, and you'll see where the rest of the calls come from on issues from citizens in this community. Interestingly as well, we think, is this chart. The blue bars represent calls made to BC 211 from people in this community who can access services for the issue that they're looking to get support in within the city itself. The red indicating where they may have to leave this community to find services for the issues that they need support in. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of where services can be found on what issues and where they need to leave the community to do that. So you may ask, well, why would United Way do this kind of research? Well, in fact, United Way, through the generosity of its donors, invests almost $2.9 million in social services in this community into 49 different agencies that receive grants from United Way, and that funds 65 different programs. Businesses and individuals in this community last year gave a little over $1 million to the fundraising campaign of United Way. So it allows us to determine where that money can best be used in this community, where the issues are, what people are having to deal with on a day-to-day basis, what kind of community this is so that we can best use dollars for that support. And there's a number of other things that we'll be doing with those dollars, in particular in this community. Starting around now, we've been working on a program called United Way Avenues of Change, which is to look at how can we most successfully support children with high vulnerabilities to succeeding in school, that being one of our issue areas. And Guildford West will be part of this program where we'll invest $2 million specifically in that neighborhood to support children with high level of vulnerability. And just quickly, the authors, but that's why we've developed this report. This will be the first of a number of ones, Richmond being next, but we thought since this community is growing, particularly with young families and seniors, that we would invest in this research at this time for this community. And it will help guide us, as well as anybody else who wants to use this research, with information on how to best invest funds in social services in Surrey. So with that, that's our presentation. If there's any questions, either Mary Ellen or I would be pleased to try to answer them.
Well, thanks very much for that, and I think we do have a couple of questions, and I'll go first to Mayor Hepner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was an amazing presentation. I thank you very much for bringing that to us today, and interesting information. I'm interested in the collection of the data and whether it was by how the survey was done. Was it by telephone? Was it direct contact? How did we engage in the determinants?
Yeah, actually, this is all based on data that's available through StatsCan, BC Stats. It wasn't an actual survey that we ran. We pulled the data from secondary sources, so that's why 2010-2011 it's the most recent full data set that we have available to us from the Census and National Household Survey that was run back then. I think the next one's coming up next year.
So it's a compilation of all the data.
That's right.
In a very usable format. So thank you very much. And do we have a copy of this?
Yes, I sent it along with the packet, and it's also available on our website. And if you'd like a copy sent to you, I can make sure that happens as well.
Thank you. And your mom and dad should be very proud. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hepner. Councillor Villeneuve.
Well, thank you very much. We're really pleased to have the information, and I think it confirms a lot of the directions the city's moving and knows where we need to address the problems. And we're very, very appreciative of United Way looking south of the Fraser because really this is where the growth's taking place, and over a third of the population's under 19. So we're grateful for that support. And I guess I just wondered if you, the Guildford West project, I'm interested if you have any details, if that's sort of getting off of the ground now, because we're looking at that project possibly being a model project that we can use in other neighborhoods.
Yes, it's in development. It's just gone past the planning phases, and they're ready to launch their action strategies. Because it's a place-based approach, it's very focused on the particular needs as identified by the particular community. So it's very specialized, but for Guildford West. But the approach can be generalized to any neighborhood and community that has the needs to help them identify specifically what types of program and interventions are needed to help their community. Mm-hmm. So it's very transferable in the approach, but not the specific things that we do, because it's so unique to the community.
And what we hope is that if we see success in this project, we can use that success to motivate donors to replicate this in other parts of the Lower Mainland where, again, high levels of child vulnerability exist in specific neighborhoods.
That sounds great. And yeah, it'd be interesting to know what the barriers are with the approach. Because we've been talking about it for a couple of years, and you know, seems like it's been a bit slow to get off the ground. So I'm sure that there's reasons for that. So we're looking forward to sort of a report on how that method works.
And just quickly, one of the things United Way's found in our almost 15 years of working in the area of early childhood development is that taking a whole population approach makes it difficult to move the needle on EDI, which is the measurement of vulnerability. So we're thinking that by trying an initiative specific to a neighborhood and putting a lot of resources in there and going bottom up where we're engaging the families in that community to identify the services and be active in the delivery of those services, we'll have a different result.
Good. Thank you very much. Interested in it.
Thank you. Councillor LaFranc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you for the amazing investment that you've made in Surrey over the years and the wonderful partner that the United Way is to our Surrey organizations. Guildford West is my neighborhood. I'm really excited, and I was a participant in the first initial phases of the project. I think that it will make a difference, and that sort of focused effect will be something really interesting to watch as we move forward. The vulnerability index as well, I pored over this report. It was just so interesting, and I hope that everybody gets a chance to read it, because we have some neighborhoods that are pretty vulnerable here, and I know that in our own poverty reduction report we do have not just the Surrey vulnerable neighborhoods, but also comparisons to Metro-wide, which I think is really important. We have some of the most vulnerable neighborhoods here in Surrey. And I guess finally, I look forward to working with you on the project, looking at the business plan for Guildford West and avenues of change. And I thank you for your work.
Yeah, thank you very much for that feedback. One of the things that United Way made a conscious decision to do about 10 years ago was to focus on prevention, as much or more so than crisis intervention. Crisis intervention programs are incredibly important, but we will always fund them if that's the only thing that we focus on. So part of our strategy is to get upstream and try to ensure that some of the issues that our communities feel are the most serious, we can help alleviate those for children and young families down the road. So thank you for your time and attention.
Well, thanks very much for the presentation. We certainly appreciate all the work the United Way does, and of course the United Way is the charity of choice with the City of Surrey staff, and so we just applaud everything that you're doing, and we try and raise more and more money every year as well for the cause.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There's no other delegation, so I can call for adjournment. Second? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you.